Thank you for joining. This is obviously the first of many Rec Portal relaunch user group sessions. I'll just move this slide on if I can. Okay, yeah, this is the welcome bit. So I'm gonna move into the welcome bit, and I'll talk about the agenda in my welcome bit. But here we are. I'll just move on to another slide. So I'll start with a bit of an announcement. So the user community page, you'll all have seen now that it's now live on the Repco website. And this is going to be our space for updates and resources to support the group. The agenda today, so obviously it starts with this bit, the welcome to this discovery phase. This is the phase that's running August to October. Obviously we did the kickoff session in August, but we're really getting going now with the sessions in full swing, with starting with this one. And so the team today are going to go through the demos of looking at the interface design and the menu design, and that's where we'll welcome all your thoughts and input into what we're doing. As we progress through discovery, there'll be time to get into more detailed discussions, but we're just going to start with these two bits for now. And then we'll wrap up and we'll discuss next steps at the end. And then just a quick reminder at the bottom, so that all discussions today are subject to competition law and disclosure rules. So that means no sharing of commercially sensitive information and no discussions on pricing, margins, or business strategies. I can't think why it would come up, but basically let's keep our focus on portal design, usability, and collaborating together on the new Rec portal. So I'll hand over now, I think, to Sam, who's going to pick up on the vision piece and take us forward with the team demos. So thank you.
Hi everyone. I think I've probably met some of you on the webinar, but anyone new, welcome. So just a quick recap on the product summary. So what is the vision for the new Rec portal? It's for a seamless, secure digital experience, unifying all the Rec services together, importantly, enabling a more efficient, smarter energy market through providing a much more seamless, intuitive service. This is because the portal is going to be for all market interactions, all interactions with the Rec. It will enable faster discovery, more streamlined workflows for those people that are uploading code and making changes, easier access, better access to change, a role-based view, so allowing people to see a much more tailored view of the information they want rather than everything all at once and having to find their way, making sure the data is really trustworthy, and reducing that user effort and time to outcome, so making the journeys much more goal-focused and more simple. So how are we going to achieve that? So based on all the research we've done, what you and other users have been telling us, we have established 6 priority areas for optimization on the site that will enable us to achieve our vision. So these are over the next 12 months. We hope to implement these optimizations. There are more, but these are the 6 absolutely key ones that came out of the user research. They are improving the navigation and findability of content, so you can easily understand what's relevant to you and find it. Better UI consistency and improved user experience, so a cleaner, more consistent, more intuitive interface all across the platform. Enhancing the search, so a search that works like you expect it to work, and is smart, is fast, and gives you relevant results. We'll be streamlining those workflows and user journeys so that tasks are much more efficient and easier to complete. So including applying for access or creating change requests, etc. Better performance and feedback. So this is to make sure there is no loading delays. Everything loads really quickly and seamlessly. It's responsive to your needs and also to where you're looking at it, so that it works across device. Personalization and notifications. So this is so you can stay informed about what matters to you. So being able to be very selective and only get notifications about things that you're interested in, and those notifications are clear, easy to understand, flexible in how you receive them, and importantly, you can control what you receive and when. So those 6 areas we'll be addressing over the next 12 months, and today we've started to look at the first 2 of those areas. So if we move to the next slide, I can introduce the menu design work that we've been doing. So this is part of the improved findability and navigation optimization. So the outcome is you'll be able to find information more easily, and you'll be able to understand and see what's relevant to you, what matters to you. We'll be doing this partly through the overhaul of the navigational architecture, the information architecture or menu design. And we've been doing a lot of research and design on that to streamline those menus and give them a much more optimized and task-oriented structure. So that means that it's really clear the information that you'll get and the goals that you'll achieve by clicking on certain navigation items. So I won't talk about that anymore. I'm going to hand over to Emma now, who's going to share with you the research activities that have been taking place and also some that are coming up, so which will give everyone on the call the opportunity to get engaged as well.
Lovely, thanks, Sam. So if I share my screen at this point, hopefully that is showing up for everybody. So hi everybody, I believe some of you might recognise me from the webinar we did previously, but my name is Emma. I'm user researcher working on the portal redesign project. And as Sam's mentioned, we've been looking at the menu structure as part of our wider piece around navigation and helping people find what it is they're looking for. We've heard from previous research that navigation was one of the biggest pain points. So that is why we're starting where we have done. So what I'm presenting on my screen right now is a mural board, which is a live document that we've been using for our research as well as our analysis of some initial card sort activities that have taken place. So by card sort, I mean, we've been looking at all the different content that exists on the rec portal in its current state. So the different headings and the different links that are accessible from that initial main menu screen. And actually I can give a bit of a sight of what that looks like up here. So we first off did a mapping exercise and created a bit of a sitemap. So we can see the portal menu in its current structure, as well as all those headings that are present for people to navigate to the various sections. And as part of our research, we took those initial menu links, so all of these ones in yellow, and put them into a card sort. And the intention behind a card sort is it really helps us understand users' mental models and how they group content together. So what we were doing, we were firstly testing, I guess, the existing structure of the rec portal. You know, is our assumption that everybody is going to group everything together as the portal currently sits in its state now, or are people going to group content together in a different way, which will help us optimize that menu? So we conducted the sessions initially with 6 individuals, but we will be looking to run this remotely with the rest of you for anybody who's interested in getting involved and have the opportunity to do a card sort yourself. So by card sort, what we had is, I'm not going to do this properly, but we had participants drag various parts of the rec portal into relevant categories of things that they deem similar, and then the opportunity to sort of name the groups. And as I say, we completed this with 6 individuals, and down here we have our card sort analysis. I'm not going to go into it into too much detail yet, as we've not technically completed our card sort, since we do want to do some unmoderated testing as well. but you can sort of see the evolution of each version updating as we spoke to a new person. And it's that collation of people's responses that have helped us create an initial menu structure, which we'll now be looking to test in an unmoderated setting. So if I just zoom down here, there's some high level outputs that came from the research. So we had all participants separate out things like the rec schedules, the documents, data specification with rec change. So two really distinct categories were formed, but also what we had is subcategories coming out of that, which don't currently exist on the rec portal website. So that was really interesting. There were also a few headings that were flagged as being quite ambiguous or unclear from a number of the participants who took part. We had things like operational documents, category 3 products, useful documents and governance. Some people were unsure what that would be or felt like that could be clearer. We also had strong agreement across participants that guidance documents should all sit together. But what was quite key is the idea that guidance was linked to through other sections as well. So if you're on, say, a data specification page, it'd be really helpful to have a link to the relevant guidance for that page that you're working on. We had all participants group things like hub spaces together. And we also had 3 out of 6 participants flagging things like applications, withdrawals, and create new applications being quite unclear. And there was a feeling that more information could be provided to explain what you're creating applications for. There were also areas where there was less agreement, which is what we're really interested in testing in this second stage of the card sort. Things around groupings of applications and performance assurance and sandbox derogation registers were quite unclear. And so that's something we really want to dig down into, just to understand that section a bit more and how we can make it more intuitive for people to find what they need. And then we had a few comments here around 3 out of 6 participants felt committees deserved its own place in the menu, whilst others had merged committees and performance assurance together as one. And we also had 4 out of 6 participants give performance assurance its own name and heading. So this is just a bit of a flavour of how we've been analysing the outputs and how we've been creating that initial menu structure. As I've mentioned before, this was just an initial card sort one-on-one with 6 people. We spoke to 3 internal Reco users and also 3 external users, each coming from a different user type, to ensure that we have like a breadth of responses, as we know it's not just one type of role that uses the rec portal. It's also worth noting that the people we spoke to had different levels of experience with the portal itself. Some were more really regular users, whilst others use the portal less frequently. So if I next just go on to what's coming up. So as I've said, we've got this unmoderated card sort that we would like to give people the opportunity to complete. And we're going to be using a tool called Listener. At the moment, I've just mocked up an example of what the exercise will look like. It's not finalized, but there are 2 different types of activities that we might be providing people the opportunity to complete. So the first one is something called a tree test. And this is essentially helping us understand the information architecture of the site and where we should place certain documents or certain types of content. And so what you'll likely have is a question at the top here of where would you go to find, and then insert content there. So in this case, I've set up an example. Where would you go to find the rec schedules? And then what we'd be asking you to do is to click on the various links and let us know where you would expect to find that specific piece of content. So in this case, I'm just going to click on the rec schedules, and then you can say I'd find it here. And there might be a series of those tree tests to complete. So with this one, where would you go to find any release changes? We'll click on rec change. I find it here. So that was just an example. That's not the correct content we'll be using in the tree test itself, but that's just an idea of some of the activities we're going to be releasing for you to get involved with. And the next one is another card sort, except instead of being on a one-to-one call with myself, it's all online. So it's the same principle. You'll be provided with sort of buckets with headings. And what we're really interested in seeing is how you would go about grouping together the content on the left-hand side here. So it's a drag and drop exercise. Up here, you'll also be given some information on how to complete the task. But we'd be asking you just to move across the content until everything's complete. If there's anything you're unsure of, feel free to put it into the unsure box. And then once you're done, we're also provided the opportunity to give some feedback and answer some questions around, is there any headings that you think could be better, could be different, any content that you feel is missing. And then once you're done, we'll gather all those responses. And what's quite nice with Listener, you get some quantitative research back. So we'll be able to tell, like, okay, our participants had 80% agreement that they'd expect to find this document here, or we had agreement that 50% were unsure of where to put performance assurance, for example. And so the outputs of that will help inform our menu design. So that was a bit of a demo. I believe that is all from me for now. Am I handing back to you, Sam, or John?
Back to John, I think.
Yes, I think I'll just it's just back to the slide deck. So it was really now just to open it up to everybody. What are the sort of initial any initial thoughts on the menu structure? Any things that really don't work at the moment that you'd like to see different? Just anything that we can feed into the work we're doing on the menu piece. Yeah, I'll open the floor for a few minutes, but I mean, you might want to wait till the exercise comes through. It's whatever people want to do.
John, I was just going to say that I agree with the 4 out of 6 that said performance assurance should have its own category. I think that'd be much more intuitive and easy for people to find. So just add support to that.
Yeah. Thanks, Hannah. Lindsay?
Yeah, just wanted to say that not specifically related to the categories or things shown there, but just in the design of the menu itself, just the flexibility to amend and change. I think there's been some quite rigid structures in the past, and so it's been quite difficult to make any future amendments. So just that flexibility that allows us to change the design. So whether we want to go down 2 levels, 3 levels, 4 levels, that kind of thing, just a real kind of building in flexibility from the start will really help kind of make this more of an enduring solution. Make sure we don't have to revisit it again at another future point.
Yeah. Lindsay. Any other comments on the menu piece? Okay. We're now moving on to the interface design piece. Sam?
Lovely. Thanks, Emma. That was great. Really interesting stuff there. And what we'll do is as well as the links going on to the community page, we'll share them hopefully in a follow-up email with you all to do those online unmoderated activities. So moving into the interface design, which is a good segue from making everything more flexible to update and change. So this is to address the optimization or the goal of bringing more consistency to the user interface and improving the UX overall, to make sure that it's cleaner, more consistent, and that using the platform and engaging with the digital rec is more intuitive. What we're going to do now with Maz is going to take us through some concepts that he's been exploring in Figma and the consistent, flexible foundation of those concepts in the terms of a design system, which will allow that flexibility to change and update going forward, as well as bringing some consistency. So I'll hand over to Maz now for some lovely visual look and feel.
Thanks a lot, Sam. Let me just share my screen very briefly. Okay, hi everyone. I think this is my first showcase. I wasn't part of the webinar, so I just start off by giving a quick introduction. I'm Maz Hyatt. I'll be the product design lead. Prior to working on this project, I was at 5 years at Royal Mail Group, and in the early parts of my career, I was part of the design studio team at Lloyd's Banking Group. So a fair bit of experience coming into designing some of your well-known websites. I'm sure everyone's going to be keen to see some of the conceptual designs. But what I'll actually start to do is let's start with actually the design system. So if a design system is almost like a well-stocked kitchen, you've got all of your ingredients, which we call atoms. But if you consider it as ingredients where in a kitchen, you're going to have, let's say, all your color palettes, your typography, your spacing, and all these components are already created. What this does, it really creates more consistency, reliable and scalable experiences for you guys. So like when you imagine you need to create a new design that we have to create, we'll be able to create a lot faster, more consistent experience overall, making sure it's intuitive, it's efficient, it's aligned, and it's all very accessible. So this is part of the typography. I won't bore you too much because this is it could be quite technical, but you can see by looking into our design system how a design comes together. I'll show you some conceptual designs shortly, but I just want to cover some of our principles that we use when creating any new design, and we use what we call our 10 usability or UX heuristics. So that's just making sure every system follows these principles. For example, having a match between system and the real world. For example, if you might pin a post-it note to your board, you can pin items on a screen. Having that consistency and standards is very much like having the design system that we just sort of covered as well. So you can follow the same patterns and behaviors. Having aesthetics and minimal design, so it's not just about it looking amazing, but it's just well structured, very much easy for you to follow and reduce all of the clutter on the screen. And finally, I'll just cover help users. And I know there's a really good rec wiki, which is sort of my guide to everything when creating the pages. And I think for users who are coming to the site for the first time, actually giving more information about, and actually not, maybe even some of you guys who are well experienced might not know all of the meanings of every page, actually giving you some guides to pages and making sure help and documentation is easily available. So we want to make sure the site offers a good service and to make sure it's consistent throughout, not just uniform. And those service really should require prior knowledge before you use it. So if you're new to the site, you should be able to really find it intuitive and get to know where you are. However, for you experienced folk, you want to have accelerators so you can speed up on the tasks that you're completing. And we want to help reduce as many of the tasks time it takes to do. We want to make it as few steps as possible, have no dead ends, and enable you to complete your task as quickly and efficiently as possible. So I'll just cover some of some early mock-up designs. We have been given the go-ahead to sort of really look at and follow the Reco sort of design system approach. However, this is a portal, so we want to make sure for you users who are very frequent, you can really focus more on the content and it's more usable rather than having sort of bold statements everywhere. So, it's really about your ease of use and your returning experience. So we've sort of, these are real conceptual designs. Nothing's really been signed off and not finalized. It's just showing how a design system can really come together to produce a set of components ultimately that you will be interacting with. I'll cover the menu. Now, the menu, as Emma said earlier, it's still much work in progress, and we really do want to listen to you. We're not really here to tell you what you need. So this is something that will be changing, but this is just an example of potentially what a menu could look like. I'll just showcase this very briefly. but hopefully none of this is finalized, and we'll adjust this as per the research outcomes. Just an example of not taking users to dead ends, and I have been through the site, and often I land on pages that have no content for me or it's not relevant for me. So I think one of our experience things is to try to help have error prevention. So if there's no items that belong to a particular page, however, that it may be intermittently, they are sometimes there is content on that page rather than completely hiding it. We can almost give you a preview to say, oh, there's no items for you to see. And that's just not just on the menu, but throughout the site. We'll be hopefully providing you with some guidance just to help you avoid those dead ends. Okay, then throughout the site, we also want to have some personalization. So this is very much designed for a first-time user. However, it's as you're coming through the site, you may see news and updates that is relevant to you. So you might not have the time right now to sort of read each of these, but what we could do is have some sort of shortcuts. So you can have a bookmark here, which is add items to your reading list, or create a task for you. So potentially news stories, you can add those to your reading lists. And even maybe recent change proposals. We're really interested in the notifications and how you're informed about changes that are coming through. So again, you may want to add one of these to your bookmarks, and what that would do is we're not to show you in this particular meeting today, but what we'll do is we'll try to showcase a really personalized dashboard where you can sort of have your action items creating through. So as we sort of show some of the designs, and I'll tell you about some of the thought processes that we've been looking at. So even, for example, on the login screen, we thought about the idea of a persistent login. Now, the site, I think, logs you out after every 15 or 30 minutes, which can be quite a frustrating experience. You as regular users are coming to the site, and it'll be better if you didn't have to sign in every single day. So we're looking at some persistent sign-in patterns with our security team. This is just an idea of one of them not finalized, but the idea to remember you for 30 days. That may be 15 days, it may be longer. That's something still yet to be determined. And what this will do is ideally keep you signed in on the device that you're using for a longer period of time to avoid those persistent steps. As we go through, so this is just an example of the digital rec. I know it's got, I think it's 30 schedules. The menu in the UI is probably not the most easiest to use today, I think it's fair to say. So what we want to do, we're looking at different patterns just to make it a lot more easier to see, allow you to see the versions, if any items have been recently updated. But some few users may be interested in, let's say, 5 of the schedules more frequently. And what you might want to do is have the ability to sort of pin these to the top, so you don't have to go to page 3 every time to find the schedule that you need. But hopefully this is a lot clearer in terms of being able to access the schedules. We're also looking very much into search and how search works across the site, just to make it really easier for you to be able to find the content that you need. It's not something that we have explored in much detail, so it'll be probably covered in a future session. This is just more layout design to show you how maybe files potentially could look, and to show you the type of files and the last updated. And this is just an application. I've just taken one application form as an example. So I think it's called Create New Application today. What we want to do is make sure it's given the right title, so so you as a user can understand what the page is, who it's for, have the relevant information, have help really accessible as well. So rather than having to go to the wiki to find information, you can click on help, and that will sort of bring help directly to you on the page itself. And these are just some of the patterns that we've looked at. If you're logged in, which most users tend to be, so we want to be able to allow you to pull in data from your profile, so you don't have to retype in your company information and your personal details every time. And if there's some things that we can do to speed up processes, this is just exploratory at this time, is the idea for you to search contacts rather than having to fill in details every time. Okay, and this is just a last example of search results. I know today that there are 2 separate searches, one on the rec portal and one for the rec schedules. what we're looking to do is bring that all in together into a single search and make it quite intuitive. So there isn't that disconnection that you have today. And follow really simple patterns. We will be looking into the use of an AI assistant as well. There is Ask Erin. We haven't quite decided what the plan of action is with that is, but if it's possible, we'll be looking to integrate AI assistants within your search as well. Great. This is all that I had to cover, but I'll hand over back to you, John, and happy to take any questions.
Yeah, so I do have a slide which basically says thoughts on the user interface, but I thought maybe we keep that view up if people had questions on that and we need to navigate around it. So I'll just open the floor up there. If anyone has any questions, and specifically talking about the user interface, I appreciate there's some pages there that might unlock something in your brain on some other aspect of the design. But for now, just trying to keep this onto the user interface and the kind of the general design that we've seen here. Yeah, any hands, any comments? Carol, were you coming in there? Oh, spin up. Okay. I'll share my screen then. Thanks, Maz. Really appreciate that, taking us through that. We're now coming up to the wrap up. That's me again now. Okay. So finishing nice and early, actually. So yeah, thanks for joining. If you haven't, if you do think of any questions or any other feedback, then you can obviously email us. I'll cover that off at the bottom. But I hope it's all been useful to look at the menu design and the interface design, and at least you know where we are now. I appreciate it's early days, so this is going to get more in depth as we move along. This is the first one. The recording of this session will be published on the community page, so you can refer back to it at any time and have another look. We'll, as Emma mentioned, we'll be releasing the card sorting exercise on that page as well to give people to give their views, and we'll send some comms out around that as well. But I'll basically email everyone to let you all know when everything's available, so you don't have to keep checking. Looking ahead, our next session is actually scheduled for next week because we couldn't get a session in August in time, so we've got two weeks back to back. So we'll cover off some more specific details now on rec schedules and that search function that you've just had a quick look at. So we'll start going into the detail on some of these, and that's where probably a few of you will have more things to contribute and more for us to discuss. But we'll plan that, and you'll receive an agenda again by Monday next week. So thanks again. If there's any questions or comments, as I said, that come out off the back of this session or on anything really, as we look ahead, then reach out to us on Rec Portal Relaunch at retailenergycode.co.uk, and we'll answer it and either answer directly, or if we need to post something, we'll post something. Or we can have a meeting about it. Happy to arrange meetings if you feel like we want to discuss in more detail.